Alrighty guys, let's do a little quick introduction into Inventor so you guys can get started on making eventually your cookie cutter that you're going to design and print on our 3D printer. So looking at our screen, we make sure you go into the icon that is the white with the orange eye in Autodesk Inventor. Not this one, not the P, but Autodesk Inventor. Double click. It's going to take a minute to launch because it's a graphics file. Many of you, if you play video games, you know that sometimes it takes a while for all of that to load because of all the graphics that are on there. Only click it once. If you click it 2 or 3 times, it's going to try to load 2 or 3 times and you'll be sitting there all day. Also, the first time it loads for you may take a little bit longer than usual. So just be patient. Just sit there. Alrighty, as it comes up, whoops, dropped my microphone. As it comes up, it may give you an option to start learning or start working. We're just going to go ahead and start working since I've got you on this video. So the easiest way really is to exit out of, if you get this part, first you'll go to start working and then close that. It should be a blank slate. We're going to go to new. It gives you options. You can create a part. You can go to an assembly file. You can go to a drawing file. We are going to start with we're going to go ahead and start with a part file. Click that. Again, it takes a minute to launch. Alrighty, first thing we want to do is to start a 2D sketch. So, well, hang on, let's talk about these stuff up here. This area over here is called your browser, and if you don't have a browser, then you're going to go to View and User Interface, because it looks like the little browser over here. You want to make sure everything is clicked except for that bottom one. This is your navigation bar over here. You're going to use it. This is your view cube. That's how an easy way for you to turn your part or piece around. And your browser is this part, and that is a major part. You've got to have that. Another thing you'll want to do is go to Tools, Application Options. Up here at the top you have all kinds of things that you can do, but we're going to go to colors. Make sure yours is set on presentation mode and the background is set to one color. Apply and close. If not, yours is going to be a kind of a gray background with a light green lines and drawings, and it's really hard to see. We have our sketch mode, we have our 3D model, we have our tools where we have those application options. Up here we have these color wheels that you can add color to your pictures, drawings that you're going to do. So we're going to go back and actually start a 2D sketch. Now, I'm going to give you some don'ts. We have start 2D sketch and start 3D sketch. You don't ever in this class need to start a 3D sketch. Everything you do is a 2D sketch. So the safest way to do that is to start and click the picture that's up there at the top. When you do, you're going to notice the different planes that you can build. So if you look at the XZ plane, if you can think about it, it's like drawing on a table. That's the one we're most familiar with. So if you put a piece of paper on a table and you draw it, these are like if you put a piece of paper on one of the walls and begin to draw. And so it kind of stands out when you build it a little bit differently. Most of the time, we're going to use this XZ plane. Not always, but most of the time. So you'll click on that one time. Once you get those lines that show up, you know you are in sketch mode. It's like you've just put a piece of paper and a pencil in front of you, and now you can draw. So let's say we want to do a rectangle that is 3 inches by 4 inches. So if you'll notice, once I clicked rectangle, I get this little yellow dot. If I click once, I'm not holding, I'm just clicking my mouse and then pulling and dragging it and clicking it again and dropping it. Do your best not to line it up on these lines, because that's going to constrain it to those lines, and you don't want that to happen. So we said we wanted it 3 inches by 4 inches. So I'm going to go up here to dimension. You guys have worked on dimensioning your drawings. So we're going to dimension, click it once. Once I've clicked the dimension tab, if I pull my mouse, I'm not clicking on anything, but it highlights. So let's say I want this, click and pull straight up. Remember, we don't put dimensions inside your object. That was one of the rules that you guys learned about. The dimension needs to be in the center, and it needs to be outside the object. So then you click your mouse again, and it drops. And an option comes up. So we said we wanted this 3 by 4. So let's make this our 4 inch side. You can click the check mark, or you can push enter. Now it totally disappeared on us. Don't freak out. It's still there. Over here on the side, your navigation bar, if you see the magnifying glass, you can click on that and it'll bring it into view. Now dimension is still clicked, so we want to make this our 3 inch. It's really close, but not quite. So 3, I can click the check mark, or I can push enter. Now we have a rectangle that is 4 inches by 3 inches. Super cool. Alright, so we're going to start another one. I'm going to show you another way how to do that. So we're going to go to File, New, Standard, Create, Start 2D Sketch. I'm going to start on the XZ plane. Another way that you can create an object is, if it's not a perfect rectangle size, you can click on line. So on line, you'll click and then pull the direction. Now if you have to be careful, see how the line is broken? It's at an angle. That'll get you in trouble if you need to make sure that line is straight before you click again, and that's going to help you change direction of your line. Click. Now if I want these to be connected, which I do, as I get close to the height of that other line, I need to match up. See how that dotted line shows up? I'm going to click, and then when I actually match, that little yellow dot turns to a green dot. Click. Now we can dimension these. This one is a little bit, this is where we don't want to over dimension. So let's say we want, again, 3 inches. You can either click top or you can click the zoom button. And let's make this, click 1 inch. And this should be 4 inches. So we'll shorten that up just a little bit. We got to make this a little bit fatter. Let's make it 1.5 inches. Now there's a couple ways you can do a 1/2 inch. You can do 1 space 1/2 for 1.5, or if you can figure out the decimal, you can do 1.5. Either way is correct. Space 1.5. Now here we don't need to dimension this one, because we know if this is 3 inches, this is 1 inch, this is automatically going to be how much? 2 inches. And if this is 4 inches and this is 1.5 inches, this should be 2.5 inches. So we don't want to over constrain our object. So when you're done, you're going to click Finish Sketch. Let's bring that back out. If we want to look at it straight on, we can use our navigation cube to be able to do that. Now let's make this a 3D object, just because it's fun. So you're going to look up here at the top. Sometimes you're in sketch mode, but after you click Finish Sketch, it's going to automatically take you over to the 3D Model tab. Here we want to extrude. So if you're thinking about, we've just drawn this on our piece of paper on our table. So if we extrude it, it's going to come up from the table. So we're going to extrude. Lots of times yours will pop up and it'll look like that. You just have to open up that arrow. So let's extrude this 3 inches. Now we have some options. We have it to come up from the tabletop up. If we click this one, we're taking our sketch and we're pushing it down through the table, so it'll extrude away from us. This one does half up and half down, and these are the 3 that you really are going to work with more than not. My suggestion is to extrude away from you when you have that opportunity. It keeps your sketch that you've just drawn right here in front of you. So we're going to extrude it away from us. Over here on the side now, it shows we have an extrusion, and if we take our navigation cube, we can turn. Look at it, it is so cool. Alrighty. I'm going to show you how to, if you've made a mistake, which happens, we all make mistakes, easy way to fix this. So I'm going to go back over here to the over here on your browser. See these little arrows? You just simply click that. There's your extrusion, and here's your sketch. To get back into that sketch, you can't start a new sketch to work on this one. You have to go in and right click and edit that sketch. Let's say this was supposed to be 1.5 inches instead of 1 inch. So we have to click Dimension, click here, and now we are going to change that to 1.5 inches. Now watch what happens when we finish our sketch. It does it for you. You don't have to go back in and do anything on the extrusion. You've got it right there. Alright, let's say, whoops, we messed up. Instead of 3 inches, we're supposed to extrude it 2 inches. Not a big deal, because we've got skills. Alright, so now it's the extrusion that we need to edit. So we're going to right click, and extrusion is a feature. Okay, a sketch is what you start with. Once you do something with it, it's a feature. So now it brings up what you have, and instead of 3 inches, we're going to change that to 2. And then look at, it's a shorter version. Super easy to make those adjustments and changes. Many of you are pretty tech savvy, computer savvy, you know what you're doing. I just have to caution you, because here, if you don't know what you're doing and you start clicking in an area that you don't know where you're going, you're going to dig yourself a hole, and I'm not going to be able to get you out of it. So I suggest you really stay with the basics, especially as we're learning how to do this. So when you save it, you'll go to File, Save As, and it'll save in your Documents area. And you would name it whatever we needed to name it. Usually not Part 1 or Part 2. On the sheets that I give you, it'll tell you what you need to save it as. Let's go back to Part 1 that I made. Let's finish that sketch, bring it into view. We're going to extrude that by, let's say, 3 inches. Alright, now sometimes cubes have parts may have a hole in them. They may have parts that stick out. If you look at like the top of a fire hydrant, they have a part that sticks out so the fireman can get a wrench and use a wrench to open those fire hydrants. So let's do that on here. So if we want to add a part that extrudes out, which is super fun to do, you would start 2D sketch, and then you would pick the side that you want to actually put the extrusion on. So once that happens, then those grid lines come back up. You know you are in sketch mode. So I want to put a 1x1 square on there for my wrench. So I'm going to dimension that first. 1 by 1. It also needs to be in the center. So our dimension, this is a 3 by 3 end that we're looking at. So I'm going to dimension from the edge of this square to the edge of the cube. So if this whole thing is 3 inches, this whole thing is 1 inch, I should have 1 inch on either side. That would be 1, 2, 3 inches. So let's do that. So to do that, I'm just putting my mouse over it, kind of highlights. I'm going to click once, then I'm going to come to this edge, I'm going to click, and then I'll bring it back to the middle and up, and I'm going to make that 1 inch. So now if this is an inch, this is an inch, then this should already be an inch, so I don't need to dimension that. Same thing at the top. So we're going to click here, click here. Now for whatever reason that didn't work for me, so I'm going to push the escape button, upper left key on my keyboard, and I'm going to start over. Dimension, so I'm going to start here this time, bring it here, there it is. Drop that, 1 inch. I'm going to finish sketch. I'm going to come over here to extrude. Now this time I do want it to poke outward, but not 3 inches. Let's say a 1/2 inch outward. Now there's a lot of different things that can be extruded here. So when you run your mouse over it, highlight, so it's saying it's only going to extrude that little spot. So you click OK. There it is. So now you have if this were at the top of a fire hydrant, the fireman could come put their wrench around that and be able to open. So let's say on this part we need a hole that goes through this side. So we're going to start another sketch on that side. We want it in the center, and we want it, let's say, a 2-inch hole. First we'll need to put a circle. Now circles are a little bit different than squares. That yellow dot is your center point. So I'm going to just drop it, and I'm going to dimension that circle to 2 inches. Now on this side is 3 inches by 4 inches, and we're on a circle dimensioning from the center. Okay, so I'm going to click dimension from the center point. See how that red dot, that's what you want, to this outside edge, and we want that to be 2 inches. And then we have to dimension it from the bottom. Whoop, let me try that again. Dimension, red dot, red line, put it over here. That was 3 inch, so I need it to be 1.5 inches. Finish sketch. Now there's 2 ways that we can put a hole in here. One is to extrude. This was 3 inches, and we're going to extrude it away from us. This may work and this may not. We'll touch that, and we can click OK. Alright. So if that happens, click cancel. Simply go over here to hole, and we have a 2-inch hole. That's how big our hole was that we made. Right there's your 2 inches. Everything is set, and all we have to do now is touch that center point. See how that turns red? And click OK. And now you can look, grab your navigation cube, and you can see that's super cool. Now if we want to color it, just for the fun of it, you'll get the one with the little blue funnel looking thing, and your color wheel comes up. Now if I want to color each side individually, I'll just click and then come over here, and then if I want, and check that, and I get my color wheel back. Or if I want to color the whole thing, I'm going to move my mouse around until I see all of it, all of those dots. Click for solid, and let's make it this really cool blue color. There you go. Now if I hadn't colored that pink, it would be blue as well. Alright. Good luck, guys. Have fun.